what else do we know about last name? Any more? Yes, please.
Should we put in requirements about language?
The language. Yeah, we might limit. Yes, input is limited to which one? To Latin characters only. So no Hebrew, no Arabic, no Cyrillic, nothing, just English. Okay. Input is limited to Latin character. Yeah, so then now we have to do a couple of test cases. Or maybe just one. Yes, more test cases? More requirements, I'm sorry.
Input can be either type or paste.
Aha. Type or paste. Yes. Okay, same rules. Let's say it differently. Same rules apply to typed or pasted input. Okay. Same rules. Same validation, yeah? Same validation. It will double number of test cases, guys. Yes.
Doesn't that saying input is limited to Latin characters only contradict all characters are allowed?
Yeah.
All characters are allowed within that character set. If you look at, let's say, Latin alphabet, okay? So the characters include letters, digits, and special characters. So that is what we are talking about. But we are saying we will not consider Arabic or Hebrew or Russian or Chinese. Huh?
Should we say Latin alphabet?
Latin alphabet. I don't want alphabet. Alphabet is limited to letters only. To me, alphabet is just about letters. We have character set. Okay. So, any more requirements? Yes.
Maybe space. When space entered after the string, it gets automatically closer.
Okay. What happens? So, guys, what happens if I start my last name, but before I just type a couple of spaces? What should happen? Or then I finish and then do a couple more spaces. What should happen with spaces before or after the last name? Should it be included into the string, or it should be concatenated?
Till 32 characters.
Forget about 32. Oh, you talk about space only last name. Why 32 kicks in?
Before or space after?
Why 32 kicks in? I mean, why are you talking about 32?
Because the string with 32 characters.
Okay.
Is accepted.
So,
The space is not character.
space is a character.
So we should give an extra character.
Yeah. Well, if it's like 32 and.
Which requirement are you talking about? Give me the requirement. What do we want that requirement to be?
I want the spaces be eliminated automatically. The cursor will move to the last valid character entered.
Okay. Leading and trailing space characters to be eliminated. Guys, not bad, huh? Okay. So you can go to business analysis now, not just testing. Guys, I think we have enough, really. So let's move to test cases. But I can tell you we have pretty good set of requirements, pretty good. So let's say test cases. When we do test cases, also, it is very important what you can put in each and every field here. Because when I looked at your tests, you provide inadequate input into the fields. Inadequate means it cannot be there. So ID is very simple. ID is, let's say, number 1. Okay. Then we have the purpose. Why we do that? And the purpose, you might say positive or negative if you wish. But then, what exactly are you testing? So here, the field is required. Good. You start with what? Positive. We always start with positive. You say positive. Positive. By the way, uppercase, lowercase. Is it same character or? No, they are not the same. It is, we talked about last name starting with, OK, so they're not the same. OK, good. Positive. What? Positive. Valid input. OK, valid last name. So input. And then provide valid input. Let's say Portnov. Why I'm saying Portnov, guys, you are always better off using your name, not your neighbor name. Okay? Did I tell you? Oh, I didn't tell you. I worked for a company called Lotus Development, and they did email application. And then there was a guy who created groups. You know, emails allow groups. He created groups, and then we used the product we tested. We did use, I mean, like 100 people. We used that application so to run and debug. And he created groups out of people who worked in the team. I mean, and he didn't find anything better than creating groups based on. I mean, he was thinking it's just his private business, but other people were able to see his groups. So he created groups out of people he worked with, based on how to say it nicely, dimensions of certain parts of human body, especially female body. Okay, big this, small that, you know, that kind. And we didn't see the guy after that. I mean, so there was an email saying, "Guys, look at his group." Yeah, we didn't see the guy anymore. So the safest way of doing that is to say group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. Okay, that is the way to go. Is it clear? Okay. So if you need last name, take yours. If you need 500 people, say Portnov 1, Portnov 2, Portnov 3, Portnov 500. Don't say Portnov, use yours. Okay. Okay, so Portnov. And then what do I expect? Accepted. What is the meaning of accepted? Means no, it wasn't rejected. Means no error message, nothing, just okay. Test case number 2. First of all, we think, okay, is there anything also positive? Positive. What? Any other test case to be positive? Well, guys, we already did that. You just wait a second. We have, you remember the concept of classes. If you look at the classes here, so what do we have in terms of capacity? How many characters? Class number, the main class is 132. It doesn't matter if I say Portnov, which is 7, or I say 1, or I say 32. Those two are redundant in terms of cases, in terms of classes. They belong to the same class. So 1 per class is enough. We do test 1 and 0 and 32 and 33 because of boundary conditions testing. And in boundary conditions testing, certain things are positive and certain things are negative. But the purpose is different. We already tested 1 and 32 as positive. So now, when we test boundary conditions, we will go there again. But so far, anything positive in terms of user does something, we expect user to do that, and we didn't test it yet. Let's see. Accept strings. Okay, all characters are allowed. Guys, we have to test that. all characters are allowed, because so far I just did Portnov. All characters are allowed. Let's do something which technically doesn't look like a last name, but since we say all characters are allowed, let's see. And so positive, all characters. So now what am I doing here? I'm saying Portnov 1, let's say $. I do not need more than that. So 1 represents digits, $sign represents special characters. I don't need more than 1. OK, accepted. And I expect it to be accepted. Good. It is positive still. And we always start with positive. The question here, though, is why do I have 2? What if I would just use this one, the second one? Would it cover for the first one? The first one is inclusive here.
Yeah.
So we don't need the first one?
We don't even need the first one. I mean, for strictly for the purpose of testing, we don't need the first one. But, what if that one fails? What if that one fails?
We still need to do the first one.
We still need to do the first one, yes. So that is why I prefer to have 2. So if that one fails, at least I know this one is working. And I can define what happened better. I can say, OK, even though it accepts letters, it does not accept. And then now I have to test. Guys, now I have to figure out what failed the test, digits or special characters, which is like I can have 3. Yeah.
You can write as many test cases as you want.
You write as many test cases as needed. And you want to write, so we might have 2 test cases here. And let's do 2, yeah. Positive, OK, let's say, let's do it this way. Positive digits. It would be better, because when it comes to inputs, guys, we have 3 classes of inputs: letters, digits, special characters. So let's do 1 test case for each class. Maybe it would be more, how to say, precise. OK. So now, positive special characters. OK. Portnov, $sign, I like it. OK, $sign. Accepted. So let's do 3 test cases.
So everything together?
What do you mean together?
No.
OK, field is required. We didn't test it yet. Now, guys, let me ask you a question. In terms of test case being positive or being negative, let's say we submit empty field, just empty, and then error message comes. Is it positive test case or negative?
It's positive.
What makes it positive? So you expect user to do that. Guys, what is the definition? What is the definition of positive? When user does what we expect user to do, then the system behaves one way. When user does what user is not supposed to do,
It's negative.
that is negative. It might be positive to your requirement. You have to test the requirement. But wait a second. From the user action being expected or not expected, it is negative. OK, so guys, I'm challenging you. OK, good. So that one is negative. Accepts string up to 32 characters long. All characters, we tested that. First character will automatically capitalize. It is positive. It's a feature. OK, let's do number 4, since we are doing positive. Positive. Capitalization. I just want you to understand that feature is much more sophisticated. Let's say, I worked in a company where we tested that a lot. For example, someone writes last name Ter, Avakian, okay? Guys, and that is the last name. Armenian last name. So now, when it comes to the tool, we test the software, so it has to take care of both. So space is an indicator of looking at both words, or it could be just a dash here, you know, or it could be, let's say, D. Okay, you know that guy? No?
Armenian as well?
French Armenian, okay. So now we have to make sure it's D here and A here. So if that feature of capitalization, you know, is there, capitalizing characters, guys, it's a much more sophisticated feature. You might have like 25 test cases just for that. Is it clear? So I just wanted to show you it exists. Okay. Yeah. So it accepts first character automatically capital. Aha. So we type some, let's say Portnov. Okay. So what do we expect? We expect Portnov. Input is limited to Latin characters only. So we did Latin as a positive testing, we did it. As a negative, we did not. Same validation applies, oh God, leading and trailing space characters to be eliminated. That is, do we expect people to type spaces everywhere? Is it negative, more like negative? Okay, so guys, let's run into negative. Field is required. Let's do negative for field required. So let's say negative, empty field. Empty field. So what do? We say empty field. Oh, no, let's call it required. Okay, let's say required here, requirement, required, and then we say empty. Empty field. What do we expect? Error message for required field. So error messages are different. If we have different error messages, each error message has its own class. Whatever inputs result in same error message, they constitute the same class. So definitely we need that. So required field, error message required, good. That is negative. Number 6, let's keep going. Required, we did negative and positive. It accepts strings up to 32 characters long. We will have to do boundary conditions. We don't want to look at boundary conditions as positive or negative. It's kind of by itself. We'll go, yeah.
So if we're talking about the field is required requirement, it's 2 test cases, positive and negative?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
We cannot do it in one, right?
if it is required and you do what we expect people to do, it is accepted. If it is required and then someone leaves it empty, we make sure the system reacts correspondingly, so there is a message.
For example, if I'm going to write down not the last name, not the last name, just a special character, like for example $sign. It's going to be accepted.
Whatever garbage, yeah, okay.
It's going to be accepted, or
It will be accepted. It says all characters are allowed. We just tested, okay, if letters are, not, instead of valid, let's say letters. It's even better. Letters, okay, digit, special character. So we just made sure that all 3 are accepted. So yeah, you can type whatever you want. So all characters are allowed. We tested. The first character will automatically capitalize. We tested. Input is limited to Latin characters only. Okay, let's try this one. Negative. We might go and create many test cases taking characters out of different character sets. But since it is allowed, it accepts only English, so I would just take one. I wouldn't go to more than one illegal character set. So let's say require negative English. Yeah, it says English. Latin. Okay. Latin characters. So I would say empty field Latin characters. Not Latin. Wait a second. Negative. Then let's say whatever Russian, Cyrillic, whatever way. Negative Russian characters. Empty field. So my keyboard doesn't allow me, but to do that much. Let's say I don't know how to type it in. Whatever. And then I expect error message like illegal. Whatever.
Should we do one for 33 characters? You know?
3 characters?
33.
30. Oh yes, yes, sure, we are coming. Leading and trailing space. Let's do it. Let's say number 7. Let's say leading, trailing, trailing space, and it is going to be negative. Leading, trailing space. Okay. So what we do space 1 space here. Let's do 3 spaces. 3 spaces. Uppercase. Portnov, and then 3 more spaces. It's not easy to see, but it's here. And then we are saying just Portnov. So we expect spaces removed. Or let's say spaces removed. Now let's run into boundary conditions. Technically speaking, we have 5 test cases when it comes to 32 characters long. Yeah? Let me do another one here. So we have normally we would have 5 test cases here. So we would say Portnov is valid. Yeah. Then so somewhere in between boundaries. Then we look into the boundaries. So 0 characters. And first 2 we already did. Then we will do 1 character. Just to see how behavior changes when we move from one class to another class. 1 character. Then we have 32 characters. And then we will do 33 characters. And that is exactly where that's typed or pasted comes. So then we will do maybe 33. Okay, let's say typed. And then we will do 33 characters pasted. Yeah. But overall, we have 5. We have 1 class and 2 boundaries. We need 5 test cases. Okay? If the field is not required, it will be just 4. If the field is like a zip code, where we have just 5. So guys, then we have, yeah, because we have just 5, 6, and 4. I mean, okay. We do not have range now, so it's 5 and so they all become just 1 value. 2 boundaries become one boundary. So we have just left, right, and in between. So it's not always 5 test cases. Overall it's 5. Sometimes it's 4, and sometimes it's even 3. But you understand the concept. You have a class and 2 boundaries. Okay. Some boundaries will not allow you to do 2 test cases. because of the nature of that boundary. So coming back to the test cases we have over there. So 2 test cases we already did. Now we have 4 more test cases left. So 1 character last name, okay. Number 8, and I'm not saying negative or positive, because 1 character is positive. It could be 1 character, but it's not what we do. So we are saying boundary, 1 character. Which character? I don't know. Why? Okay. What do we expect? Accept it. Number 9, boundary, 32 characters. Oh God. So let's say Portnov 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, and eventually it will come to, God knows, more than that. So I have to make sure it's 32 in total. 32 in total. In the real test case, guys, you will provide the real string. Okay. Accept it. Number 10, boundary, negative boundary. Yeah? It goes over the boundary. 33 characters. And then you provide something, let's say 33 character. And accept it, no, 32, first 32. Accept it. That is what you expect. And then we make 1 more test case out of this one. Copy, paste. Now number 11, we are saying boundary, 32 characters. Yeah, 32 characters. Paste.
This actually doesn't give you an error message. It just accepts first 33 characters, right?
Hmm?
It doesn't give you an error message if you type 33.
No,
It
no,
just
does no, no, no,
accepts
no, no, no. It just accepts what it should accept. So first 32, 33. Okay. So we have 11. Is anything left on the table here? Anything we missed so far? Required, we tested. Accept 32, we did. All characters we did. First character will capitalize, yes. Input is Latin characters, we tried Cyrillic, okay. Same with type or paste it, okay. We did in one place, okay. And leading and trailing space characters to be eliminated. Guys, we've got a lot. Is it clear? So it's not exactly which test cases you come with. You know, it could be more or less, but it's about test cases being up to the requirements you come with. If you come with requirements, no way you can fail. You might come with less requirements if you want to limit the time. You can come with less. And it is also important when you talk, when you do that, you comment on what you do. It's not like you are doing something which is not exactly answering their question. Say, what are you doing? We wanted test cases. We didn't want requirements. You see? Okay, here is how we approach that. You comment on how you approach. And your approach is 10 times more important than test cases you derive. Because if your approach is right, your test cases are supposed to be good, eventually. If your approach is wrong, I don't care which test cases you bring, guys. It might be brilliant test cases, but if your approach is wrong, I doubt it's going to be brilliant test cases. So what you sell is your approach. Okay? Good. Last time we talked about test cases. And we did go through that page with interview questions.
Not all of them.
Exactly. Not all of them. Good. So then we have to finish and talk about all of them. So let's go there. Data QA. Yeah, you remember the place. Data QA. Test planning and test documentation. So which ones? Where did we stop? We didn't write test cases for text field. We didn't do it last time. Yeah? So now, guys, let me make it shorter because now you are prepared. What does it say here? It says 5 test cases are for capacity. Whatever the limitations you have on both sides, whatever the boundaries, there is some limit on the top and there is some limit on the lower side. Okay? So you have potentially five test cases, could be 4. In exotic situation like zip code, it might be even 3. Okay, but you do capacity, 5. 3 test cases for valid, invalid input of letters, digits, special characters. We just did same thing. We had 1 test case for letters, 1 for digits, 1 for special characters. What changes when you move from field to field, what changes is the expected result. For example, if you do last name, so digits, expected result is accepted, letters accepted, special characters accepted. If you do zip code, you do same test cases, but the result is expected result is different now. Digits are accepted, letters are not, special characters are not. If you move to Canada, anybody from Canada here? We have some time. So, okay. Your daughter is in Canada. So. If you move to Canada, guys, letters are allowed in zip code. It's not 5 digits anymore. It's more sophisticated, but not special characters. So the expected result changes, but the test case remains the same. Okay. Valid and invalid input. Okay. 1 test case for each allowed special character. Now, that is what it means. Let's say sometimes certain characters as a group are not allowed, but there are exceptions. For example, if you look at email field, special characters as a class are not allowed. It is not enough to be special characters to be accepted. No. As a class, no. But some exceptions are made. So you can have dot, you can have dash. Yeah? I'm not sure about underscore, but dash for sure. A few more are allowed. So now, what should I do? I test letters, yes, accepted. I test digits, accepted, good. Now, what should I do with special characters? I have to make sure that it will be rejected as a class, means I have to take those special characters which are not supposed to be accepted and make sure they're rejected. And then for each and every special character which is allowed, I have to do separate test case. Again, what you also have to understand, we might create an email address which includes all the positive, all the allowed inputs. So it might have letters and digits and those special characters which are allowed. All of them in just one email. We can do that. And then it passes. And then it covers the whole thing right away. Now, the problem is, what if it fails? And we have all the possible valid inputs in just one test case. And then it doesn't work. It fails. So now we have the task of going after each subclass of allowed characters to verify which one actually failed the whole thing. So to counter that, we are saying, okay, not guys, we are not going to do one test case. Let's do multiple test cases. And if it fails, it fails. for regression purposes, let's say we have that product and it is on the market. And we just did some minor changes and we have to run a regression test. We can take one. Because if it fails, which is not likely because it's not in the process of development, it's already on the market. But if it fails, okay, then we will go one by one. Is it clear? When we test on everyday basis, okay, in parallel with developers making changes every day, we want each and every test case to be a separate test case. Even though we might combine them, but when we combine them, the assumption is it is not going to fail. Because if you know it might fail, then you don't want to combine them. See what I mean? Is it clear? So, in the test cases which we just made here, here, we could make just one test case. That is what I'm saying. Portnov, $1. That's it. It will cover all three classes of possible inputs. But what if it fails? Then we have to have three. Is it clear? Good. So that is why. So what I'm saying, we would rather have three. Even though we can make one, but only if the assumption is it is not going to fail. Okay. Yes, coming back to that part. One test case for each allowed special characters. And email is an example of the field where some special characters are allowed and some are not. So as a class, it is not accepted. But as an exception, yeah. Functionality testing, if there is any functionality. We just did have functionality. It becomes uppercase if it was lowercase. So there is some functionality assigned to that field. How is it normally implemented? Well, probably JavaScript behind the field. You just move out the field, boom, it becomes uppercase. Case sensitivity. Yeah, it mentions case sensitivity, required field. So if the field is required, it's a functionality matter. Okay? It's not just what you can type in or. Test matrix. Data collection mechanism provides a structure for testing the effect of combining two more variable circumstances types of hardware. Guys, as long as you stop being afraid of the question, so that is the simplest thing which is existing in our question. So test matrix is basically spreadsheet kind of thing, where we keep track of what we are doing. Let's say we have different browsers and different operating systems. So for that operating system, we test, let's say for Windows 7, we have to test on 3 different browsers. For Macintosh, we have to test on one browser. For, I don't know, well, maybe Windows XP or Windows Vista, we have other browsers. Maybe some Unix, I don't know. So we create that spreadsheet. So we can provide structure. Spreadsheet is a structure. Structure for testing the effect of combining browsers under different platforms. I did show you last time that one browser handled data in zip code field one way, and another browser on the same page did it differently. So there are differences between browsers running on same operating system. But if you take same browser on multiple operating systems, exact same version of the browser, you will see there are differences specific to the operating system. And how do we combine the effect? Testing. Yeah? Structure for testing the effect of combining. So there is certain effect when you combine. Okay, just spreadsheet. I mean, nothing really sophisticated or challenging. Okay. Cells keep the result of test execution. So failed or passed, failed, passed. That's it. If there are so many settings options to choose, let's say you test a dialog box. There's lots of different things in it. Even if you look at printing dialog box, just let's take a look. if I go to File, Print, or let's say Page, okay, let's go to Print. Okay. If you come to that dialog box, it has lots of things you can combine. So you can say all, or you can choose pages. You can say, we didn't select anything on the page, but if I would select something on the page, there will be the option of printing the selection. Number of copies. If I select more than one, I will have another option here. If I say, okay, give me more than one, so now I can collate or not collate. You know what that means? When I print, let's say, 5 pages, it could be 10 copies of 5 pages. It could be 10 copies of page 1, 10 copies of page 2, 10 copies of page 3, or it might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So now I have that. I can print to file. If you know what it means, I can choose the printer. Guys, I can combine lots of things. And the question here is, okay, if there are so many settings, options to choose, how to write test cases? Well, and it says, so test cases should be developed for all most common potential scenarios. You are not coming to that as a robot to whom each and every combination is of same importance. No, no, no. The most important things are first. What are the most important things? The most common. If you think about, let's say, Microsoft Word. Guys, it has 100% of functionality. Who thinks he or she is using more than 2% of Microsoft Word? Raise your hand. Okay, so most of the people are using just a little bit. So we have to make sure that part is tested first, especially if we do regression. So majority of customers will not suffer any harm, as a result of the changes or things like that. So we start with the most common potential scenarios. That is the best way of investing our time into the quality of the product. Then it should cover most of the positive input. Positive goes first. You do not go into negative until positive is in place. Okay? So if it's not working anyway, why should you waste time making sure what's going to happen if someone does the wrong thing? It's not working even if I do the right thing. Besides test case and test plan, what documents are required to write? Could be required under certain circumstances. I mean, my first 2 years in QA, I didn't write any document. I wanted to, but I worked for startups, and they didn't do any documentation. I mean, literally, they didn't have any time to do documentation, and we worked like maybe 11, 12 hours a day, and they didn't have place for documentation. So checklist. So you understand the idea of checklist. Just done, 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 just to keep track of things to be in place. When I was a QA manager, I developed a checklist for certifying release, not release. The product was on CD-ROMs. And CD-ROM goes to duplication shop, if you understand what I'm talking about. Manufacturing place, they have to manufacture multiple copies of that. So factory, let's call it that way, duplication shop. It goes to duplication shop. And before it goes to duplication shop, I had a checklist, kind of sanity check. So making sure things are in place. Otherwise, we spend money. Okay, they produce 100,000, let's say, CD-ROMs, and then everything goes to trash can. It's too expensive. Now, checklist, and I was always improving the checklist. And one day, there was a developer who comes to me and he says, Michael, did you ever try to install that application in case there is not enough room on the hard drive? You understand what should happen. So the system should say you don't have enough room. I said, no. He said, why don't you try? I tried, and I was restoring my computer for 3 days after that. But I mean, I don't want you I don't want to know what happened because it's too technical, but it completely destroyed my computer. It didn't ask. It started to write, overwriting important things. If you know what's file table, okay, so you understand what happened. And so I included that into my checklist for, another time, development manager stops by, and I was just about to produce that CD-ROM for duplication. I was doing that. They call it golden. Okay, and he said, Michael, did you try to test it for viruses? I'm saying, I tested my system this morning, and he said, just in case, I find 2 viruses on that CD-ROM. And I like paid $50 for our software and get 2 viruses free. So, and then I included the virus check into the process. See what I mean? Checklist is where you say, okay, done, 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 done. Okay. You might have test cases for each and every checkbox in the checklist, or you might do it intuitively. You might have structured procedure or very much kind of ad hoc. But at least it says, okay, do this, 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 this. Test matrices we discussed. Test design specification. The idea of test design is to make sure everything is covered. If you think about test design, think about a tree. Tree. Big, solid tree. Tree has 2 materials involved. Wood and leaves. Okay? So brown and green. Okay. Brown is test design. Leaves are test cases. Okay. So you start with the trunk. And then say one functionality, another functionality. So it becomes branching. You look at that branch, and it branches more and even more and even more into different functionalities. But then eventually it comes to how you test it, which is test cases. So test design is like that wood, the brown part of the tree. It brings you to test cases. So if you have a good test design, everything is covered in your testing. If your design is not good, some branches might be missing. Yes?
Isn't it a part of test plan, test design stuff? Because it kind of stipulates.
We have a list of things which might be a part of test plan, which is pretty long list. Test design specification, you can do that. Guys, it really depends how big it is. Because if it is just 2 pages, it's fine. You can include it into the test plan. If it is 55 pages, you don't want that. Because it just distracts people from what test plan is about. But since it comes to the test cases directly, I wouldn't put it to test plan. Because it is supposed to be very, very big document. I would make it kind of part of test cases. So I'm saying, here's my test design, and it ends up with all the test cases involved. So I would group this 2. Test design and test